Okay, so you are all set up with your podcast now and you're ready to start putting out episodes. But before I tell you how to publish to all of the major podcast directories, there's something that you should know about, and that's episode 0. You see, to submit a podcast to a podcast directory, especially Apple Podcasts, you need to already have at least one episode recorded and on your feed before Apple will even consider it. So let's talk about what exactly episode 0 is, why you should have it, and how to structure it. So, as I just said, it is the very first episode in your podcast feed. Most people will treat it as a show trailer. And I say most people, like most podcasters, but also most listeners. You don't know anything about a podcast before you really listen to the first episode, probably. So, you want to make episode 0 something that will get people interested in your podcast. And to do that, you should have the name of the show, of course, who the host is, and maybe save that for last. I'll talk about kind of structuring in episode 0 in a little bit. But you should also have what listeners can expect from the show, a very general timeline for launch, and a call to subscribe. Now, the very general time frame for launch is for two reasons. You don't necessarily want to tie yourself down to an actual launch date unless it's like 2 months from the time you publish episode 0, because your podcast being in different directories is beholden to the actual directories. So Apple Podcasts usually takes a few days to a week. Spotify does it within a few hours sometimes. Some could take up to 2 weeks though, especially if you're launching around the holidays. So when you're talking about time frame, you might want to say something like, join us, we're looking to launch in December 2020 or some future time frame. But don't try not to say a date unless you really know for sure that your podcast will be ready to go by then. And then, of course, the call for subscription or the call to subscribe is to allow people to make sure they don't miss the first episode, right? You want to have a bunch of subscribers on day 1 so that you have a good launch. But episode 0 will serve as a trailer for your podcast. So you want to entice people, and you need to do that by hooking them with a story. Don't just come on and say, hi, my name's Joe Casabona. I'm the host of the new podcast, How I Built It. If people don't know who you are, or if the name means nothing to them, they're going to be gone so fast. But if you start with something like, every carpenter needs a hammer to do their job. Now people are like, what? Why is he talking about carpenters and hammers? Like, what is this? Or if you tell some really encapsulating story to hook people, you have 30 seconds to hook a listener. So make sure to tell a good story and then get into the what this podcast is, when it's launching, I'm Joe Casabona, all that fun stuff. But hook them first with a story. So, to quickly sum up, the episode 0 serves two purposes. First, it introduces your show to people in a trailer-like format to get them interested before you officially launch. It also ensures that your podcast feed is approved by all of the major directories before the official launch date, so you can plan around your own time. So let's just say you want to launch 3 or 4 months from now, and you have all of the other stuff that we've talked about in this course decided. Record episode 0 today and put it in your podcast feed. And in the next section, you'll learn how to submit them every major directory. So you get to launch and plan around your own time instead of launching, saying your podcast is available, and then going, oh, but it's not in Apple Podcasts yet. All right. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So your action item for this video is to write and record an episode 0. It doesn't have to be very long. 60 to 90 seconds or 60 to 120 seconds is fine. Just a quick trailer to tell people who you are and what the show is, and remember to hook them with a story.